Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffiths. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I'm your host, Denise Griffiths, and today I welcome to the show Bradley Benner, and our topic is From Solopreneur to Business Owner Through Marketing and Systems. Now, Bradley Benner is a self-proclaimed addict when it comes to digital marketing. We share that same addiction. He's the co-founder of Semantic Mastery as well as the owner and founder of Big Bamboo Marketing. Now, Bradley is here today to share actionable tips and tricks to help you navigate the semantic web, and we're going to find out exactly what he means by that and optimize your digital marketing efforts so that you can make more money and get better clients by working smarter, not harder. Been there, done that. In this interview, he will share SEO, search engine optimization, and lead generation, information about info products, creating systems, delegating, and scaling. Good morning, Bradley. Welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I'm excited to have you here.
Hi, Denise. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So listen, you have a lot to share. I mean, first of all, what is semantic marketing?
Well, Semantic Mastery, the name of my company, was developed. Yeah, that's okay. And that was developed because back in 2013, when my partners and I kind of formed our information product business, it was really the beginning of what's called the semantic web. And that was the change over from what we used to call like string type searches that really this had to mainly deal with search engine optimization. But the internet is now an internet of things. In other words, the internet connects not just computers anymore. It connects to everything that in our lives, right? To our mobile devices, to our appliances, to our doorbells now, like to our light switches, for our homes, to our TVs, to everything that we have is now it's connected to the internet. And so that's what the semantic web is really, it's a way, it was kind of a new language created for the search engines and algorithms and such in order for devices, and it was just really a new communications language. And specifically how it applies to search engine optimization, which is really where I had got my start in digital marketing. The semantic web was kind of its onset or early stages where Google started to adopt semantic web technologies back in 2013. And so we saw that, my partners and I, as something that was only going to continue going forward. In other words, we were going to continue further into the semantic web technologies. And we decided to name our information product business Semantic Mastery to help people gain a mastery or an understanding of how to utilize that for their advantage. Does that make sense?
It does. And I thought that's what it was. I was pretty sure it was, but I wasn't entirely certain. And I'm glad you clarified that for the audience because it is important to understand what that term means. And you're right. You can hardly avoid using the internet for anything. And when I bought my new refrigerator a year or two ago, I really considered getting the one that could, hook into my iPhone. I thought, no. That's just way too much information out there on the internet. Nobody needs to know what's going on with my refrigerator.
Yeah, like how low you're running on milk. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And the funny thing is, this was years ago, and maybe you saw the same thing. It was years ago. I can't even remember when. And I read or saw some kind of article or YouTube video or something. Maybe this is the early days of the smart house. Early. And it scared the crap out of me, I'll be honest with you. This was a long time ago. And here it is. We almost can't avoid it. You're right. Ring on our doorbells, you can monitor your air conditioning. You can monitor your toilets now with
everything,
your phone.
yes.
I find that a bit creepy, I'll be honest with you. And I am a nerd, but there's some things I'm like, just don't want to share that with the internet. Thank you very much. So that's
and then there's the Alexis, the the Amazon and the Google Home boxes and, all those things that now we've got microphones in our house now that are, just listening to everything that we do. And that, that data is being collected. So you're right to be a bit concerned about that kind of stuff, and as a digital marketer, it's to my advantage to be able to have access to data to be able to build profiles as far as like persona or, persona-based profiles of my, or customer avatars and that kind of thing. But it is a bit, even as a marketer, especially being able to have access to a lot of those kinds of data points, it really does. It is a bit creepy. Like there's no doubt about it. So until there is some sort of regulation by the federal government on this kind of stuff, we just really have to be careful with what, how we use all of our devices and how much we give up.
Absolutely. And listen, Alexa, all of that, not in my house. Never will be in my house. My TV, smart TV, I made sure that it couldn't listen to me. I've turned off or deleted most apps. In fact, I'm very careful about what apps I allow on my phone and my iPad. But even so, I'm going to get caught up in it. I will. They're sneaky, and there's a lot of things. But anyway, that's a whole nother rant. So sorry about that. But it's important. I mean, it's important to be aware of what you might be bleeding through your IP address, or even, Outlook now has problems with sharing IP. There's a lot going on. So let's talk about some of the topics that you came here to share. SEO and lead generation, info products, creating systems, that's important. Delegating, very important. Scaling, most important, probably. So why don't I just cut you loose and let you go where you want to go with this?
Well, sure. I would say probably a good thing to start with is just a little bit about my background and how I kind of got into this business, and in my progression and what I've learned as the title of this episode today is from solopreneur to business owner. Because when I got started in this, I actually came from a technical background. I was an electrician. And I got involved with electrical apprenticeship program when I was in high school. I enjoyed it very much. I liked working with tools, so I became certified. Became a journeyman electrician right outside of high school. Within just a few years, I think within 3 years, by the time I was 21, I got hired with Verizon. At the time, it was Bell Atlantic, but it was the telephone company. And got hired at the very top of the craft position as a cable maintenance technician. So I was, doing very well at 21 years old, making $70,000 a year, full benefits, all that kind of stuff. And but I felt like something was missing. I didn't want to be stuck in that position, and so I started looking at other ways to make money. And at the time, this was back in 2003 time frame. Real estate, if you touched it, you made money. The market was going crazy at that point. And so I, got interested in learning how to flip houses. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with house flippers, and it's all over the TV now, people that go buy houses and renovate them and resell them and that kind of stuff. And so at the time, with my construction background as a former electrician and then working for the phone company, I kind of knew quite a bit about residential construction. So I decided to get into flipping houses. And that's really where I started learning about marketing. At the time, it was traditional marketing, not online stuff. So I started studying, first of all, how to, conduct real estate transactions, how to find deals, negotiate, and that kind of stuff. But marketing was how I would find what you call motivated sellers. And those were people that had houses that they would let go for a song because they needed to get rid of them for whatever reason. And I made it convenient for them to sell. So I've learned a lot about direct response marketing and direct mail and copywriting and all that kind of stuff. And I really fell in love with marketing way back then. But fast forward a few years, 2007, in the United States, obviously the real estate kind of bubble burst, and it really, property values fell really quickly. And I was in the process of rehabbing several properties, 3 properties to be exact, at the time that the bubble burst, and property values fell below what I had actually acquired them for. And I still had tens of thousands of dollars of construction work to do on each one of those. And so I pretty much had to close that business down. I lost everything around. I kind of limped along until 2008, and then finally shut it down and went back to electrical work from 2008 until 2012. And here's what happened during that period. In 2008, I went back to electrical work, but I was started as I opened my own electrical contracting business, because by that time I had been doing running my real estate business as an entrepreneur. So I've been running my own business. I was my own boss from 2003 until 2008. And so I didn't really want to go back to work for another company. So I started my own electrical contracting business. And I was doing some marketing, the type of marketing that I had learned in my real estate business. So some direct marketing stuff, direct mail and door-to-door flyers type stuff, and flyer inserts into the newspapers and things like that. But I wanted to generate more work, and I really wasn't good on a computer, right? I knew how to get on a computer and do like some word processing and stuff like that, but I really wasn't good on a computer. And I decided I wanted to start generating more leads for my own electrical business around 2010. And, because I didn't feel like I was making enough. I didn't have enough of a customer, consistent customer base and that kind of stuff. So I started looking into how to market online. What about this internet thing, right? How can I get leads from the web? And that's where I just started doing some research from home. I didn't have the money at the time to actually hire a digital marketing professional back in 2010. So I started looking into it, and that's where I discovered what SEO, or search engine optimization, was. And I became absolutely fascinated with that process. The ability to be able to manipulate Google's search results in my favor just fascinated me. And so I started with my own website and my own, Google Maps was in its infancy stage back then, but, creating a Google Maps listing, as well as learn how to build a WordPress, a website with WordPress platform. But I didn't want to just practice on my own website. So I started building some additional contractor type sites. Carpet cleaning was one of them. Locksmith was another one. Just a few different types of, contracting industry, because I was familiar in that industry. Websites and digital presences that were just generic, but I was using those as like test sites to see what I could do, and testing different methods and techniques to see what would work best. And what happened was I was able to get, within about 6 months, I had gotten to the point where I was able to rank a website and a Google Maps listing almost very consistently, and then they would start to generate leads. The websites or the Maps listings, or both, a combination of both, would start to generate leads, phone calls, people submitting the contract request forms, that kind of stuff. And I didn't, I was only one business, an electrical business, so I was generating leads for my own, but some of the other sites that I had built started generating leads. And so, for example, the carpet cleaning site started generating a lot of calls, like 30 calls a week. And so I had to go out and start contacting carpet cleaners in that area, which was Alexandria, Virginia at the time, and calling them and saying, hey, look, I've got all these leads coming in, and I'm not a carpet cleaner, I'm an electrician. So would you want to buy these leads from me, or would you want to lease the digital asset from me on a monthly basis, just a flat fee? And I got, after a few calls, I found somebody that wanted them. And I thought, I'm on to something here. If I can build a side business where I can build these websites in my spare time at home when I'm off work, once they start generating leads, I can then lease these assets to, contractors or whoever, whatever the business was for, but I mainly dealt with contractors, or I could sell the leads on a pay per lead basis. And so because of my electrical contracting business, I knew a lot of contractors that I had worked with on projects. And so I just started building sites for different contractors that I knew, and without even asking them. I would just build them, and once leads started coming in, I would contact them and say, hey, look, I did this thing for you. Are you interested? If not, I'll call one of your competitors and sell them to them. And it was interesting because within about 2 years, from 2010 to 2012, I had built up a really good portfolio of my own digital assets that were generating a lot of leads, and I was making, fairly good money. In fact, enough money to almost quit my electrical contracting business and pursue it full time, the digital marketing business. However, in Virginia, which is where I live, and that's primarily where I was doing my lead gen, building sites for contractors I knew locally. In the winter, it slows down. All work slows down in the winter considerably. So my income would drop. For 2 years, I went through kind of like what did very, very well through spring through fall, but then in the winter, my income would drop considerably. And so By 2012, I realized that I had enough experience and enough of a portfolio that I could use to prove that I knew what I was doing, that I could open up my own marketing agency, which is called Big Bamboo Marketing, and then provide my search engine optimization expertise to just any type of business on a retainer, like a monthly retainer basis, to where I could essentially take clients. Instead of continuing to build lead generation assets, I was able to go, offer my services to other businesses and say, I'll charge you $500 a month or $1,000 a month to be able to get your presence to where it's generating leads consistently. And so in 2012, March 2012, I opened up Big Bamboo Marketing. And that was within just a few months, I was able to generate enough consistent, steady income from client revenue that I was able to quit my electrical business entirely and go into digital marketing full time. Which and ever since then, I've been sitting behind a computer working on my business. So we're talking about 6 years now, full time, or 6.5 years almost. And then from there, what happened was later that year, in 2013, I joined a high-level digital marketing mastermind with other people that owned agencies or were, marketing consultants and that kind of stuff. It was specifically based around primarily search engine optimization, but other digital marketing techniques as well. And we met once a month for a webinar, the guy that was hosting it. And it was good information. It would be, a 2-hour webinar once a month, but I wanted more out of it. So we had a forum that we were all members of, and I started a weekly accountability group using the Google Hangouts platform, which is basically video conferencing, and invited as many members as wanted to come participate in a weekly accountability group where we would just meet and we would discuss what's working in our businesses, what wasn't working, methods that were producing results, just share information and kind of help each other create goals and stick to them and that kind of stuff. And what was funny was within just a couple of months, so, about 8 to 10 weeks, there was a lot of people that were showing up to these accountability meetings, but they weren't contributing. They were just showing up to listen to just a handful of us that were consistently sharing every single week what was working and what wasn't working and that kind of stuff. And it was me and really a handful of other people that ultimately became my partners at Semantic Mastery, because we had realized after, witnessing a lot of people, like the audience was growing, but there was really not that many other people coming in to try to participate. It was more just them coming and consuming what we were sharing. And we said, hey, you know what? We're on to something here. There's, our weekly accountability group is getting more attention than the monthly webinar of the high-level mastermind that people were paying for. And we were all paying a lot of money, like $200 a month, I think, for each of us to be in that group. And so we thought, why aren't we monetizing this? We should create our own business. We've got enough valid information here to be able to teach and share. And so that's when we formed Semantic Mastery, and that we actually formed that in 2014. So within a year, we had created our own corporation. And my partners, I've got 4 additional partners. One is in the U.S., and the other 3 are international, in Costa Rica, Argentina, and Austria. And so it's 5 of us from around the world, really. And what's interesting is we each have our own specialties. We each run our own digital marketing businesses outside of our information product business, Semantic Mastery. So we all have different levels of expertise, or in different areas anyways. And together we combine, and we've been together ever since 2013, but really as a corporation since 2014, and we're still together, which is, it's rare to find partnerships that last that long, at least in my experience. And it works really, really well. And it's because I think we're able to share from very varied backgrounds and varied expertise, right? Different, for example, I do a lot of SEO and now process and systems training. And another one of my partners is really the SEO guy now. Another one of my partners does all the paid traffic, like the paid advertising and media buys and that kind of stuff. And another partner does email marketing and programming, if that makes sense. So it's interesting because we have a lot of background, and that's what makes, I think, Semantic Mastery kind of unique and special. And so that was my progression from going from a solopreneur into a business owner, at least into the digital marketing business. The next part of that would be, we can talk a little bit about SEO if you think your audience would be interested in how to get some better results for their own business using search engine optimization, as well as what the current kind of trends are that are working really well.
Right.
But then I would also like to touch on at some point a little bit about the process building and systems and automation, because that's something that I was able to scale. I had to learn to scale. So.
Right. I'd rather go there. Let's leave SEO for the end of the hour if we have time. If not, we can maybe do another show on that, because it really is kind of a standalone process, and people need to understand what the heck it is. And I build web design. I'm a web developer. I build websites all day long. I can do minor SEO, but I'm not silly enough to think I'm an expert. I always bring in an expert. And it's important, because if you don't have good SEO, if you don't have good marketing, and I'm so glad we're talking about marketing, if you don't have those things, what I have built you is a really pretty boat anchor, and I'm not going to feel good about that. So I don't operate that way, and I wish other developers wouldn't. Many do. Many are like me going, you need a whole system here. But some are like, sure, I'll build it for you. Good luck. God bless. Not going to happen.
The prettiest, most well-developed website in the world means nothing if nobody visits it.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. So let's talk about SEO towards the end, and probably lead generation. But go ahead and progress to your next topic. And I'm fascinated. That's why I'm not interrupting much. So if I'm sitting here very quietly, it's because I'm writing a lot of notes. So keep on going.
I was hoping you weren't asleep, so I'm kidding.
Oh, God, no, I'm sorry. So you want me to interrupt more often? Say, hey, I'm here.
No, that's okay. I was just teasing.
Okay, good.
So what kind of throughout that process of, finding who we are as Semantic Mastery, I still run my digital marketing agency, Big Bamboo Marketing. I've just whittled it down to a handful of really good clients, some that I've had for many years. And occasionally I will still take on a new client. But, my passion is with the teaching, and I really enjoy that a lot. But where I had to learn how to start developing processes and systems is, as I had mentioned, when I started learning how to do digital marketing was in 2010, and by 2012, I had opened up my agency, and I did very well in that I landed several clients within just a few months, but I was doing everything 100% on my own as a solopreneur, and so I did everything. Right
now, you're talking my language. I started out the same way. About half killed myself.
Yeah, that's the thing. I enjoyed my work very much, but I had reached a level where I was completely saturated. I could not take on any more work, and I was making good money, but I had no time whatsoever. I was working literally 12 to 14 hours a day, like 6 or 7 days a week. And to be honest, at the time, I was working pretty much 7 days a week because I enjoyed it very much. But there comes a point in time where you burn out with everything. And like I said, I had hit kind of a glass ceiling with the level of money that I could make, because I couldn't take on any more work. And at the time, I felt like nobody could do what I could do as good as I could do it. And I'm sure a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs that listen to your podcast feel the same way.
I was that way. I'm a perfectionist. Yeah. Nobody could do it better than I could, and I learned just like you. If I don't step back and bring on a solid team, I'm going to probably stroke out in front of my monitor one day.
Yeah.
You can just go so far before you're exhausted. Your creativity just says, I'll see you later. You're working, constantly on something. You're not sleeping. Been there, done it. So those of you who are doing this kind of thing, find help. Seriously. So keep on talking.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what was funny was I had actually purchased a ticket to a high-level search engine optimization training event that was out in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it was $20,000 to go to this thing for 5 days, and Wow. It was all-day training for 5 days, but it was again, it was something that was going to help make me a better SEO. That's what we call ourselves as SEOs, but it was going to make me a better SEO. So therefore, I put up this $20,000 to go out to this event, and on the way to or before I left to fly out to Scottsdale from Virginia, I picked up a $9 book on Kindle, Amazon Kindle. It was called Work the System by Sam Carpenter is the author. And I started reading this book on the flight out there, and then I finished the book on the flight back. And it was a $9 book, but it taught me
Bradley, I have that book.
Go ahead.
I have that book. I got it at Dollar Tree, and I have read it, and I did years ago. And I have read it. I have annotated. The thing is so full with little sticky notes that I think I broke the spine on it. It's a good book.
I can believe it. Yeah. And, I kind of wish I had the paper version of it at the time, because I had it on Kindle, and so I had a bunch of notes outside of the book. But the point was that it basically opened my eyes to the need to learn how to delegate and to let go of some of the responsibilities that I was, doing all on my own, and how to build systems and what he calls working procedures. So basically standard operating procedures, SOPs, for how to do anything that I knew how to do. And, I make jokes about this all the time, but it's the honest to God's truth. That $9 Kindle book helped my business grow so much more than that $20,000 event that I went to. That, I always say that, but it's true. It was the best $9 I think I've ever invested. Obviously I had to apply what I read. A lot of times, I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. You read books and you say, "Oh, that's a great idea," but you never implement it. In this case, I was at a breaking point with my business where I just couldn't take on any more work. So when I read through this book, and I decided, went home and made the decision that I was going to do it, was going to apply the principles taught in the book, and that was to develop working procedures or standard operating procedures for the processes that I was doing in my business on a day-to-day basis, and basically just document them. And there was particularly one thing that I was doing that was working really well for my clients, and that was, it had to do an SEO method, but it required a lot of hands-on work. It was very labor and time-intensive to build these what we call syndication networks, but they were very, very powerful. We still use those today, as a matter of fact, and but it was very time-consuming. And I was selling syndication networks to my clients, as well as I started selling syndication networks to some other marketers that would then resell them to their clients, for example, or for their digital products and that kind of stuff. And so I was really tied up with doing a lot of that. It was very, very time-consuming and repetitive type of tasks. So that was the first thing that I wanted to learn how to build processes or procedures for. And so, but I didn't have the time to build the processes, right? Because I was just talking about how I was working 12 to 14 hours a day to fulfill the work requests that I had, my workload. In other words, in order for me to be able to fulfill all the work that I had for my clients, plus the orders that were coming in for syndication networks, it was me. And I didn't have additional time to take away from that to build these processes and document everything, which is part of the reason why I always felt like I couldn't train somebody, because I thought, listen, I don't have the time to take away from doing what I have to do to generate revenue to be able to teach somebody else how to do it. And there is the catch-22, right? But what I did was I literally gave up sleep. I just had to talk with myself and said, okay, you're going to give up 2 hours of sleep a night until you get these processes built. And it took me 3 months to get my first set of processes built. And I'm not going to lie, I felt like a zombie. I literally, it was like The Walking Dead, because I was so tired and so exhausted all the time. But I did it. I kept my nose down and I did it. And it was crazy, because right after I got my first working procedures or set of working procedures together, it took, I had to hire, next thing I had to do was I had to hire a couple virtual assistants. We've got anywhere between 30 to 40 virtual assistants at any given time now. All of our employees are contract employees that work remotely, and I've learned all of this through the years. It's great because we can give people opportunities to work from home and that kind of stuff. So I hired 2 virtual assistants to start to give them the procedures that I had created, to teach them how to do what I had been doing all of these months. And within just a matter of weeks, that burden had been completely lifted off of me, because my virtual assistants were now taking it. And I had so much time back, I almost didn't know what to do with it. It was incredible. And that's where I saw the power, and I saw like the light, and I said, okay, I get it now. And I realized at that point that you really can teach other people how to do what you do, at least for a lot of things. Sometimes if there's judgment or analysis that has to be applied to something, then that may be slightly different. But when it comes to just executing tasks, I realize that as long as you document it properly and make it very, very easy to understand how to do it, like step by step, you build out the training materials and you document things in a written format as well, step by step, in very linear fashion, like do this, then you do this, then you do this, then I could train anybody to do most of what I knew how to do. And so that really was a great awakening for me. And what was crazy was not only did it give me back all this time, but now I was able to really start pushing the sales of these particular networks that I had taught my first contract employees, my virtual assistants to build for me. Not only could I started marketing them more, right? Started selling more of them, and even started approaching marketing agencies, digital marketing agencies, and selling them in bulk. Because now what used to take me 4 or 5 hours to build one network, I had virtual assistants doing that. I was, essentially I had a couple from the Philippines actually that were doing it. And so it was costing me like $35 to $40 to have them build them for me. And I was turning around and selling them, at a bulk rate to agencies, 10 at a time for $100 a piece. So $1,000, and I'd be paying labor for $400. And so anyways, it turned out to be a really good additional stream of revenue for me. And then I was able to start scaling by adding more virtual assistants onto the team and teaching them through those processes. And lo and behold, the first product that my training company, Semantic Mastery, launched was really just a repackaged version of my process training that I had created to train the virtual assistants on how to build these networks. That product we still sell today. It's called Syndication Academy. And it teaches people how to build these networks through the same training that I had used to teach my virtual assistants how to build. So from that learning process of how to delegate work and how to develop processes and systems really was the start of our information product business. As far as, we've always done the weekly webinar thing. And that's really how we got started. But then we started actually launching digital products, which were really nothing other than packaged up versions of processes that I had built into my own business, and then reselling them to other people to teach them how to build, do the things that I was doing in my business. So it's very important, I think, for people to do.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes. Listen, in the beginning of my career, I started out as a web developer, and immediately, this was in 2010, perhaps 2009, 2010. I don't even remember now. A decade ago. I immediately realized that no matter what kind of client I was working with, that they needed ongoing assistance. So I, went out on Facebook, put up my virtual assistant shingle, and got buried really quickly. And I found out a lot of the things that you found out, that I could just work so much all by myself. I had to have help. And I would tell people who would come to me for whatever it was that they wanted, web development, virtual assistants. I don't do that work anymore, but we're more an agency now. But I would say, listen, you can't ask me to do work you don't know how to do it yourself. So follow yourself around. Figure out what the process is that you use. Figure out what you can outsource and write it all down. Have those SOPs. And more often than not, Bradley, people go, I don't have time. I can't read your mind. I can't work with you if I don't understand precisely what it is that you need and what I should be doing. And we would go round and round until I would get, those processes out of them. They're critical. So my point here, and we're going a little bit off, but if you're going to think about hiring a virtual assistant, and you need to, you cannot expect them to read your mind. You have to give them processes. It's critical, absolutely critical.
Yeah.
So there's my rant.
And what's really, if you think about it too, the franchises. What are franchises? Franchises are nothing other than processes. Like they're businesses that have processes developed that are documented, so that you can buy into a business model and have everything laid out for you, right? And so it amazes me, and I was doing this in my own business, so I'm certainly not above
MLM,
that.
same thing, right? I mean, everything is all laid out. I'm not a fan of MLM, but you have to admire how they operate.
That's correct. And like I said, I'm certainly not above this because I experienced this myself, but I can't tell you how many of our members come into Semantic Mastery and listen to our webinars or come participate or join our coaching programs or whatever the case may be, but they don't have any procedures at all. And so a lot of our members are people that want to become digital marketers or already are digital marketing consultants and want to get better results or streamline their businesses, start learning how to build processes and that kind of stuff. And it's amazing how many people come in that can get results for their digital marketing efforts, whether it's for clients or for their own websites or their own businesses or whatever the case may be. But one of the biggest things or concerns that we hear is that they don't have consistency, like they're unable to get consistent results. And when you drill down into what the problem is, you find out that a lot of the times it's because they just wing it with every single new project or every new client. They just start applying things that they know, but they don't have a process developed. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. Step 3, and so on. And so they have inconsistent results, and they don't really know how to put the pieces together in such a way that is repeatable to where they can do that over and over and over again. And so that's one of the first things that we like to teach is to start developing those systems. And the way that you do that is you start documenting things. And I know it's very time consuming and it sucks. And that's what, I tell people all the time when we talk about building processes, it's not sexy. It's not fun. In fact, it's so tedious and boring. Yeah. And it really is.
And like you say, I did the same thing as you, Bradley. I had to say, all right, Denise, 5 o'clock every morning, once you've gotten, the cat's fed and you've done all of your personal chores, whatever it's going to be, from 5 to, let's say, 7 o'clock, I was taking care of business and meditating, whatever it is that I do. 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock every morning, I created or documented my processes, and I hated it. Yeah. Because part of me was twitching, going, you've got work to do, you've got and I was constantly just like over-caffeinated, and I don't drink coffee, but I had to do it. And once I got into that rhythm, it was like, I still hate this, but I'm seeing where it's going to make sense.
Yeah.
Make those processes work, because if you don't, you will never, ever be able to scale. So Bradley's right.
You're absolutely right. And so, we developed a product around how to do this, right? And how to learn how to build processes, at least the way that I do. And it's called Outsource Kingpin. And, in the internet marketing world, there's always usually goofy names for products, and it's a way to grab attention. So we call this one Outsource Kingpin, but it's basically the same process that I use. And still to this day, I primarily just use, what I do, just so you guys are aware, what I do is, because everything I teach is about how to do digital marketing stuff, is I just fire up a screencast video and I just narrate the screencast video as it's recording what I'm doing, and I narrate it very descriptively. And then once the task is complete, right, the video ends, and then I go back through and I either have the video transcribed and then have it put out, laid out like in bulletproof format or a ordered list format. So there, or I'll go through it and do it myself sometimes. Still to this day, I still end up typing out a lot of the written steps, but I just do it based upon the video, so that there is always a training video that goes along with a step-by-step procedure, a written procedure. And then I just put that into a Google Doc. I know there's all different kinds of softwares out there and applications that you can use to build processes and everything, but still to this day, I still primarily run all of my processes into just Google Docs, Google Drive, essentially. And then I share those with whoever I'm delegating the work to. And it's because it's a living document, and they talk about this in Work the System, the book, but it's a living and breathing procedure. In other words, it can be amended or edited at any time. And when I first started learning how to do this, I was very rigid in that I would create the process and hand it out, delegate it to somebody and say, I want you to follow this to a T. There's really no room for iteration, right? There's no room for you to make changes or anything else. But what I've learned as becoming a manager of others over the years is that, if you give people empower them to be able to help in the process, in other words, contribute, and give them the freedom to not just change a process without permission, but to look for ways to improve and then make suggestions, the processes end up becoming so much better anyways. They become much more efficient, for example, because remember, I would learn or at the time when I first started doing this, I was documenting things that I knew how to do very, very well. But over the years now, I've learned to just learn how to do something good enough to document it, then delegate it, and then allow the person that I've delegated it to go through that process. And because they're going to be doing that over and over and over again, they're going to be the ones to identify ways to combine steps or to eliminate steps altogether to make the process more efficient, or to find tools or applications that will help them throughout that, complete that task quicker or more efficiently. And so I've learned that now I'm able to develop processes so much quicker now than I ever was, because I learned how to do something just good enough to teach somebody how to do it very crudely, and then I empower them to say, look, here's the basic process for this. Go at it and start. And when you find ways to improve this, just notify me. We use Slack as our communication channel, but just notify me in Slack that you found something. Yeah, and I'll review it, and then if approved, we'll edit the process doc to include that new change, and now that'll be the new process. And so subsequent personnel that come on and learn the process will learn the updated process, and it'll be much more efficient, and it's just constantly evolving.
And you learned something that I learned as well. If you trust your team, you bring in good people, doesn't matter where they are. I've got team members here across the globe, really, Canada, they're everywhere. And I will give them enough information about a project or a process that I'm working on that they can see the bigger picture. And then their creativity goes, ooh, but Denise, what about this? Have you thought about this?
Yeah.
No, I hadn't, and that's a great idea. Thank you. I routinely ask my team members for ideas or thoughts or, anything that they've got, because I don't know everything. I've got one guy in one of my web development team. Seriously, I've gotten to where I ask him more questions than I ask myself. He's that good. I'm good. He's better. Yeah. And I know this.
Yeah, sure.
So I absolutely say, okay, what do you think about this? And he'll say, well, that's a great idea. Or, okay, and I may go with it anyway, but I did ask. So, yeah, get those team members and get them on board.
Yeah, absolutely, and so that's one of the things that has really helped us to grow as an organization too. Like I said, everything that we've been able to accomplish with our organization has been because we build processes and systems. And one of my partners, Adam Moody, he's really, really good at. He's actually, his background was a systems engineer. And so, now he's a digital marketer, but it's crazy because he builds in, like, he's taken what I do. I still do everything very manually in that I develop processes myself, and then I hand them to personnel, to our virtual assistants or a team member or whatever. And I say, do this, but it's them doing the work. Well, he does all this stuff with Zapier and all these applications where it automates a lot of things to where he can even remove the burden of the task, or at least many parts of it, from any person, like any human, because it's done via bots and automations and things like that. And it's crazy because he's really good at that kind of stuff, whereas I still like the communication with an individual. And so it's funny to see our two different styles, but we still both accomplish a lot. It's just in very different ways. He figures out ways how to automate a lot of things, and so that's something else that can be done, figuring out ways. But the idea is to, I think one of the smartest things that you can do is first, people often ask, well, what do I start with? Like, what do I start to delegate first in my business? And I always recommend the first thing that you do is build systems around repetitive tasks, things that you have to do on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. Because those are the things that you have to do yourself, or, somebody has to do over and over and over again. That is going to, it can be processed, systematized, right? You can turn it into a process, and that's going to give you that amount of time back. And especially if it's a repetitive task, now it compounds, because every single time that you would have been the one doing that, now you have that time available for something else. And so, for example, it could be in the digital marketing world, if you're doing client services, it's, client reporting could be one of the very first things that you do, because that's probably something that has to be done on a weekly or a monthly basis. For me, it's a monthly basis. I have to, generate reports and add my commentary to reports that I send to my clients. And so that's something that could be outsourced immediately. I don't know what's in each one of your businesses, but you do. So that's, sit down and think about that. And then decide on what are the tasks that are repetitive and also the things that you just don't enjoy doing. Those are some of the first things that I would recommend outsourcing, because if you don't enjoy doing them, you either do them very begrudgingly, or a lot of the times you put them off because you don't, you just flat out don't want to do them. And then things, starts to fall behind and that kind of stuff. And then that's always a negative energy drain. You feel bad because you've got something gnawing or nagging at you that you should be doing, that kind of. So those are the best kind of tasks, in my opinion, to delegate first. But something else that you mentioned, Denise, which I thought was great, that I would also like to point out, another really good resource, another methodology to help you guys actually implement this stuff. And that is, Denise mentioned that, at 5 o'clock in the morning after she fed her cats or got her coffee or whatever, she would sit down and do a process. Even though it's not fun, it's tedious. It is, guys. You're going to hate doing it. Maybe some of you will enjoy it, and God bless you.
No, I hated it. I really, from start to finish, I hated it. But once I got into that rhythm, I was like, okay, I got this. It's kind of like going to the gym. You don't want to go.
Exactly.
You have to
build
get up,
momentum.
you don't want to go. But once you get there, after that first 5 minutes of whining and crying and looking at everybody and see if they're feeling sorry for you, you've got it. Just go do it.
That's correct. And again, you can develop a routine out of it. And once it becomes routine, it becomes easy. And it's very much like going to the gym. It's hard. It's got inertia. It takes a while to get to build one. But once you develop that routine, if you don't go to the gym, you feel like you're missing out, right? And so I'm not going to say I ever feel like I'm missing out on developing processes. I'm not going to lie. But I often, when I have something that I know needs to be processized or systematized, I will, develop the habit, regardless. And here's one of the things that I would recommend is another great short little book, read, and you can even find audio versions of it by Brian Tracy. It's called Eat That Frog.
Eat That Frog.
And Eat That Frog.
We all know that book. Eat That Frog.
It's great, and a lot of people I talk to haven't heard of it, and so they go, "Well, what the heck does Eat That Frog mean?" And it's great because it says, if you had to sit down in the morning, or if you had to sit down and eat a big ugly frog, right, you could rest assured that that's probably the worst thing that's going to happen to you that day. And so the Eat That Frog principle is take the thing that you don't want to do the most, the thing that you procrastinate on, and make that the very first task that you complete that day, or, on a given day. Because if you do that one thing that you hate to do or that you want to procrastinate on, that you just you're just really not looking forward to doing, then it will be done, it will be out of the way, and the rest of your day, you'll have a sense of accomplishment, and the rest of your day will be much more productive. It's kind of like getting up and making your bed every day. Anybody that doesn't make your bed every day, I'm not trying to disparage you, but it's just like something small that you can do that kind of starts the day off on a productive level. And so the Eat That Frog principle is really what I like how Diane said she would do a process in the morning. That's what I would do. Whenever I'd have to develop processes, I'm not going to say I do it all the time in the morning, but if I have a bigger task or a more complex procedure that needs to be documented, then that's what I'll do, is I'll schedule time in the morning. It'll be the very first thing that I do in the morning when I get to work, is work on that, even if it's just an hour. And so I kind of developed my own strategy for that, and I always call it, it's only an hour. Like, that's what I will always tell myself. It's only an hour, and I'll devote an hour to any difficult or complex task or something that I don't want to do. I'll give it an hour every day because it's only an hour, just like going to the gym. I go to the gym every day. Fortunately, I love to do it. But when I first started, I hated it. But now I love to now. But in order to get through that and build that routine, I would tell myself it's only an hour, right? It's only an hour. It's only an hour. And now I really enjoy it. Well, same thing with processes, And sometimes I can develop a process in 15 minutes. But if it's something that's a lot, or if you're just starting out doing this for your business and you're just starting to document tasks in your business, you've got a lot. It's a big elephant to eat, but you do that one bite at a time. And so, eat that frog. Make that the first thing that you do every day. If you can't devote an hour to it, just do a half an hour. Do whatever it takes, but do it on a daily basis. Another great book for building momentum and compound. It's called The Slight Edge. Jeff Olson, I think, is the author of that. But again, small actions repeated consistently over time have a cumulative effect, if that makes sense. And so if you just take 30 minutes a day or whatever you can squeeze in your schedule or make the time available to do that and do it on a daily basis, it won't be long until you have most of your business processes, or at least a good chunk of them, systematized, that then you can delegate and take that burden of work off of yourself.
Exactly. And the reason I did it in the morning is that even my office is in my home. My commute is, a minute and a half if I don't step on a cat. But the thing is, if I would do it early, very early, even though my phone doesn't ring a whole lot because I'm tightly scheduled, part of me just said, this is my alone time. Nobody's going to bother me. I can get this done. I can knock this out. My working hours may be 8 or 9 in the morning. It doesn't matter. But as long as I got this work done, these processes done, before my mental work day started, I felt, like I could do it. Yeah, I've got this. This. Nobody's going to bother me. I'm not looking at email. I don't have any calls scheduled. I don't have to talk with my team. I've got this. So from, let's say, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., I think, was the time zone that I did all this in. And, I was twitchy. I was very twitchy for the first, probably week or two. It's like, I've got stuff to do. And my little squirrel monkey brain would take off running, go, okay, I've got it. She's confused, squirrel or monkey, both. But, I was constantly going, I've got to. And then finally I just said, stop. And I would literally sit down, raise my hands from the keyboard, take a deep breath, close my eyes, and say, stop, focus.
Yeah.
And you've heard of Mel Robbins, right? The 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Every day, multiple times a day, I will stop, Denise, stop. And I will, go back, take that breath, focus, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and off I go. But I can't scattergun it because I will drive myself nuts. We all do it. So find what works for you, but, there's books, there's mentors, there's coaches. There's something out there for you. Just find what it is and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and not to get all meta on you, but since you brought it up, that's something that I practice regularly is, I have a 10-minute session of meditation every morning, which is it's basically just breathing exercises, and I calm my mind and still my mind. And then right after following that, I'm a Christian, so I spend about 10 minutes in prayer. But then after that, I spend about 5 to 10 minutes just kind of visualizing what I want to accomplish for the day. And that really has made a huge difference in my business in keeping me focused. Whereas if I don't spend that few minutes kind of just in using my imagination to close my eyes and literally envision what I want to do, what I want to accomplish through the day, and seeing those things done, right? Those whatever I wanted to accomplish, I visualize it being done. And again, I don't want to get all too meta on you guys, but what I found was that by doing that, it really helps to reduce my distraction level throughout the day. In other words, it keeps me much more focused because it's almost like I have created a roadmap for my day every morning. And you can write this stuff down if you want, but honestly, for me, I don't even write it down anymore. I did for a long time. I was using what's called the Best Self Journal, and that was a great tool for me to learn the habit and the routine of kind of planning my day on a daily basis. But now I just do it mentally. Like I just think about it in my head. Now, obviously, if there's certain things that I need that I'll jot them down in a notebook or something, or on a text notepad file on my computer. But for the most part, I just think about, okay, look, these are the big things that I know that I need to get done today. I kind of take a few minutes just, again, after meditation where I'm in a very calm state, and think about them and visualize them being done and how I feel knowing that they're done. And then when I get to work, I'm able to stay on task with less distraction because I feel like I've already had it, the kind of like a roadmap of my activity for the day has been laid out, and it just makes me much more focused. And those are just little techniques that you pick up as an entrepreneur and as a business owner over the course of my career that I've been able to pick up. And guys, your personal development is one of the best things that you could possibly do for your business. I mean, aside from marketing, which I'm a marketing professional, and we could have been talking about marketing today, but instead, I mean, these are all things that are going to make your marketing will help your business grow, but so will becoming a better you, you know.
Absolutely.
And I truly believe that.
I agree with you. And, you know, for the focus thing, it took me the longest kind of time to say stop multitasking. Multitasking is one of the worst things you can do to your body, your brain, your business. It doesn't work. So what I was going to ask you, because I do much the same, you know, I focus in the morning, you know, I express my gratitude. I don't meditate because I really have never learned, but I had a great interview with Sandy Abrams about Breathe to Succeed, and you know she's talking about breath work. So, and I've got her book in front of me right now. I'm going to put it a review on Amazon. But what I have found is, in order to stop, you know, my monkey brain taking off and hauling butt down the road, which she has been known to do, I stop multitasking. So I do kind of a major, you know, what you do. I do a major. Okay, this is what my day wants to look like. This is how it's going to feel. But in order for me to focus, and I learned this the hard way, I have to go through this process multiple times a day. I may be working on one website. Okay, I'm going to do this for 2 hours. Then I walk off, I breathe, I go outside, I do whatever it is that I need to do. I may wash dishes, who knows. Then I come back and I start that process all over again. Yeah. What am I focusing on? What is it going to entail? And you know, I breathe my way through it, and I talk my way through it, and I focus, and nothing else is allowed to get to me. During whatever time zone I'm going to be here for 45 minutes. For 45 minutes, you cannot get my attention. That's all there is to it. And it works for me. It took some doing, but it works. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's uncomfortable when you start, because a lot of times, you know, again, like a few years ago, 3 years ago, if somebody would have said that I'd be meditating on a daily basis for 10 minutes and doing creative visualization, I would have told them that they were nuts, you know, because I always thought that stuff was silly and, you know, hocus pocus and that kind of crap. And, but, you know, once I started... Watch a child daydreaming.
They are so happy, and they tend to get what they want because they are focused and they know what they want and how they're going to get it.
Yeah, and once I opened my mind and decided to just give it a shot, you know, and kept an open mind about it, I mean, it was very, very quickly that I started to see tangible results. And, you know, so I became a believer. And ever since then, I've been practicing those, you know, on a daily basis. And it really does help. And so, you know, I would kind of want to wrap this up with saying that, you know, you really have to find what works for you and for your individual personality. But that's why I think it is important as a business owner, entrepreneur, and just as a person, period, right? And a human being, is to try to consume things, information that will help you, like, and from different angles and different points of view. So reading books, listening. I'll be honest, I don't do a lot of reading anymore. I just feel like I don't have the time, but I do like Audible, right? Because you can hear books when I'm at the gym or when I'm driving. I call it my university on wheels, you know, those kind of things. So
podcasts, webinars. I mean,
podcasts.
These days, there is no reason not to find what you need. It's out there.
That's right.
Listen, Bradley, thank you so much. Where can people find you on the web?
Well, that's great. There's two places I would point you to. One, we set up a welcome page for your audience specifically. It's at semanticmastery.com/partner. And again, that's Semantic, SEMANTIC, mastery.com/partner. And that's kind of a welcome page. You can opt in for, you know, just some various free stuff that we'll give you. And also, we do a weekly webinar series. It's a digital marketing question and answer series on YouTube, and it's called Hump Day Hangouts. We do it every single Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, and it's 1 hour long. And we've been doing it, I think episode 248 was this Wednesday, this week. So we've been almost 5 years. We're almost at the 5-year mark of doing this every single week. And we absolutely love it. It's free to attend, and you guys can come to stop by and listen or post questions. There's a chat box underneath the video on the webinar page, and you can always post your questions. And whether you can make it live or not, it doesn't matter. If you post your questions, we will answer them during the question and answer webinar, and you can always watch the answer on our YouTube channel during the replay. So again, that's Hump Day Hangouts. All you got to do is search YouTube or Google for Hump Day Hangouts. You'll find Semantic Mastery, and come join us over there as well.
I didn't even know about that one. Thanks. I'm going to head on over there. Bradley, thank you so much. It has been fascinating speaking with you, and I think we speak a lot of the same language, and I love all of the tips and advice about, creating those systems. Listen, I can't stress that enough. They are important, and I'm glad you shared that with the audience. So before we say goodbye, I would like to remind our audience to be sure to look for us in iTunes and anywhere else you consume your business podcasts. Just look for us in your partner in success. I can do this. Just look for your partner in Success Radio and take us along on your success journey. Brett, thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise.
For some reason, I cannot shut this thing down. Hold on. There we go.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffiths at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.